Welcome back to the front room. It's great to see you again. Today we're going to be working through the question, what does crisis reveal about us? And we're looking specifically at what crisis revealed and exposed about the Roman Empire in the times of the plagues. First, I want to show you something from our front room. This is a marble game that Grace gave me. I first discovered it at her boss's island cabin and really enjoyed it, so she got me a version of the game. And the game starts with all the marbles, kind of the whole board full of marbles except the one in the middle. And at the end, the goal is that you end with only one marble in the middle and all of the rest gone. You jump marbles and stuff. And I'm really good at this game, or it feels like I'm really good at this game, all the way through. Except at the very end, I never end with only one marble. I always end with two. So my strategy seems to be working throughout the whole game. And then at the very end, it exposes that my strategy never was working because I never win. So just a reminder, we've been talking about these two plagues in the early AD Roman Empire in the 2nd and 3rd centuries. The Antonine Plague, which was named after the family name of the emperor Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, who was emperor at the time of the plague, and the Cyprian Plague, which was named 3rd century plague, which was named after the Christian bishop who wrote about the plague. We've been talking about how the Spirit, through the church, has provided meaning, value, and belonging to those in their suffering, through a theology of suffering, through an ethic of caring for people and especially the vulnerable, and through these relational networks that served everyone. So kind of the thesis for today's episode is that the church, in providing meaning, value, and belonging, exposed the failures of the Roman system. It showed that in crisis, the Roman system really doesn't work. And I want to look at 3 ways in which it did that. First, Rome failed to make any meaning out of suffering. The Roman religion looked for someone to blame. It blamed the plagues on someone who had offended the gods or something like that. And Roman philosophy, so Marcus Aurelius, who was emperor at the time and a philosopher, said that moral vice was worse than sickness and death and seemed in the end to accept the plagues. Neither of those answers provides a robust way for living gracefully in the time of the plague or for overcoming suffering, like meditating on Jesus actually does for Christians. Christians didn't look to cast blame or simply accept suffering. Christians believe that Jesus is with us in suffering and that he has defeated death in his resurrection. So first, Rome failed to make meaning of suffering. Second, Rome didn't value the vulnerable. Many people died of all walks of life, including Marcus Aurelius, co-emperor at the time. But a later emperor, Julian the Apostate, and this is a quote from him, "I think that when the poor happened to be neglected and overlooked by the priests, the impious Galileans," that's his language for the Christians, the impious Galileans observed this and devoted themselves to benevolence. The impious Galileans support not only their poor, but ours as well. Everyone can see that our poor lack aid from us. The Romans didn't take care of the poor and the suffering. So the ways that the Christians lived showed the weakness of the Roman system. Rome tended not to care for the poor while Christians did. So Rome didn't value the vulnerable. They didn't provide meaning and they didn't care for the vulnerable. And third, the Romans abandoned those in need and abandoned their relational networks. The rich and powerful actually tended to leave Rome and leave places of infection during the plagues. Even some of the best doctors left the worst hit areas. And relationships that had been important were abandoned, while Christians tended to fill the relational vacuum that was left, and so provided care for those in need. So Roman theology, values, and relationships were all exposed as not offering much to help people in their sufferings. So Christians lived as a light to the world and as a city on the hill during these times of plagues. All this begs the question in me, what is this crisis exposing about me? What is being revealed about me in this time? Often, our ideas about ourselves, about our world, and about God seem to work as long as things are going well for us. But we really find out where our cultures and our worldviews are vulnerable when they face crisis and suffering? Can I make sense of the world when things get hard for me? Does my way of life still make sense in a time of crisis or when people around me are suffering? Some of us are discovering at this time that the way we were living was filled with things that were non-essential, while the things that we said were essential, we were neglecting. Some of us have had lists for a long time that we said, if I have more time, I'll take care of this. But we find that with more time, we're not actually doing those things. We become the kinds of people that don't take care of the things that we said were important to us. Some of us are saying that support systems that we thought were important just in the end aren't that important to us. Times of pressure and suffering reveal who we are and don't let us keep pretending that we are who we thought we were. So I invite you to join me in taking stock. Am I who I say I am? Does Jesus really hold a central place in my life? Are there new ways that God is inviting me to follow him? So sit with Jesus and just ask, what is this crisis revealing in me? How can I live with more integrity? And are there ways that Jesus, that I can follow you more authentically because of what's being revealed in me right now? I want to leave you with a scripture that invites us to do that kind of soul searching, or really invites God to do that kind of soul searching in us. So this is the end of Psalm 139. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the everlasting way. Blessings, and I miss you, and I pray that God's blessing you in this time.